Welcome to the Consumer's Corner Show, the only show of its kind where we fight for consumers who've been wronged by bad businesses. We answer questions, solve problems, and listen to complaints while also recognizing great companies that operate professionally with honesty and integrity. Today's show is sponsored by TrustPatrick.com. Ready to get started on that next home improvement project? Looking for contractors you can trust? At TrustPatrick.com, we've gathered the best companies in business. Companies that have a proven track record of honesty, integrity, and experience. Don't let just any company in your home. Get connected with honest and reliable companies at TrustPatrick.com. And now, your host of Consumer's Corner, consumer advocate, Patrick Mattingly.
Hey, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today's going to be a really kind of a cool show for me because I've been wanting to sit across from Chris Kane for quite a while in this studio.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been a goal of mine.
Yep, all right. Everyone has to have goals.
Yeah, it really has. It's been a goal of mine, which is really cool. So I'm a little nervous because, you know, obviously you've been on TV, and here I am, a YouTuber, right?
Right.
So I'm a little
but
nervous.
I've never been on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. I got one up on you.
There you go.
Well, hey, listen, before we get too far into the show here, I want to let everyone know that today's show is sponsored by 303 Roofer. Chris is obviously the owner of 303 Roofer. 303 Roofer provides residential and commercial roofing. They do free roof inspections for those that are concerned whether their roof needs to be replaced. And they work with all insurance companies. So for all your roofing needs, go to 303roofer.com or call them at 303-390-1382. Now, we're going to talk about something that I know everybody wants to hear about, and that's roofing. Well, I'm just kidding.
Riveting information.
Yeah, riveting information.
But it is important.
Yeah, it is important. Although I do want to say, for those of you that are watching, you know, we're not going to talk about boring roofing stuff. We're going to talk about stuff that's super important. As you know, this is a show about consumer advocacy. Our goal is to help, you know, people avoid unethical companies and companies that are inexperienced and don't do you know, jobs correctly, contractors, professionals. So what we're going to talk about are some very important things regarding, I would say, I mean, we could probably do 5 shows on roofing, really. I mean, because I think it's, or more, or a couple less. The bottom line is that we want to do a show. We talked a little bit about a few things. We can expand on things, but this show is going to be about really protecting yourself in several different ways. Number one, obviously, we want to make sure that people, you know, hire a good companies that are, you know, that have all their ducks in a row, that are good companies, that have their insurance, they have their experience, they do the job right, things of that nature. But we also are going to talk about, I think insurance is one of the things we talked about, right?
Yeah, insurance from a roofing perspective, not as an insurance agent. You know, we're not agents, but I can tell stories of what we've seen when people have not had good insurance. When you have good insurance, things are so much better. So it's super important to find out what you have. And I think it's important to explain to people too what we were talking about in the beginning, you know, with me being on TV. So my background is on TV and radio. I got into being a contractor because of nightmare stories from consumers that got ripped off by contractors. And that's how we started a construction company, to help those people that got ripped off, you know, whether they paid $5,000 or $50,000 up front to a contractor only for the contractor to not return, or there was problems maybe when the job was halfway done or maybe even fully completed, but you couldn't find that contractor. So we would raise money from the community. We would go in, we would finish projects for people, and that's how we started getting into construction. That started in 2009. And that was coinciding with the television and radio programs. So I've been on TV and radio for 20 years and contracting since 2009. So, just over 10 years now. There are so many horror stories, so many nightmare stories. There's a ton of great contractors out there.
Sure.
But it's, we hear about the ones that are bad, when the homeowner gets ripped off.
Yeah.
It's too bad that, you don't hear more about all these great contractors, but it's almost like it should go without saying you should be a good contractor. We're just going to, contact people and talk about the bad ones. So just know that there's a lot of good ones, but do your due diligence. Don't end up with a bad one because it's very easy to.
Yeah, for sure. Here's my viewpoint of this. Obviously, I know a lot about driveways. I don't know a ton about roofing. Only the things that I do know, and I'm sure probably a lot of homeowners know. So we're going to talk about insurance, but I think insurance is kind of tied to storms, right?
It is, especially in Colorado.
Yeah. And there are other states that get hammered by hail, right? I mean,
absolutely.
There's a ton of them that get hammered by hail.
Absolutely.
And so
wind, hail, hurricanes, tornadoes.
Yeah. So a good question is obviously there's a storm, and it's crazy. I actually saw one here just a couple weeks ago. There was a hailstorm, and I just happened to drive over to the neighborhood the very next morning because I want to learn about roofing. I want to learn about, how to help people. And it was amazing to me that I pulled into this neighborhood and I go down the street and there's a guy walking down the street with a clipboard and a roofer shirt on. And then there's another guy walking on this side of the street, different company. And then I see another truck and I'm like, oh yeah, there's like already a couple companies here. And then I drove down a few more streets. By the time I got finished driving through this neighborhood in less than 5 minutes, I probably saw at least 20 companies.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that happens.
Yeah. And so they're called storm chasers, right?
Well, they can be.
Sure.
And I guess I'd like to talk about that as well because, Colorado Roofing Association says that, when someone comes to your home and they're a door knocker, don't answer the door, don't trust them, don't work with them. I disagree with that a little bit. I don't think that every company that knocks on doors is a bad company. I just think that the advice we would give to a homeowner is don't hire someone right on the spot. If they want to give you information, you can get information. You may or may not want to let them up on your roof. That's up to you. Don't sign something because a lot of times the bad companies, they'll give you a piece of paper saying, I just need your approval, sign this piece of paper, let us up on your roof. Next thing you know, you're into a contract. So before you sign anything ever, always read it. It's binding. But do know in home sales, there is a 3-day, 72-hour right of rescission. So that's important to know.
In Colorado.
Also. Mm-hmm.
In Colorado.
So again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just telling you what we have to go by with our contracts. What the Colorado Roofing Association says. It's a great site, gives great information. The only thing I disagree with is the door knocking stuff. We don't door knock, but there's good companies that do.
Sure.
I don't see a problem with it personally. I just think don't get pressured into signing anything.
Yeah, for sure.
There's nothing wrong with getting more estimates. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. There's nothing wrong with waiting until you're comfortable making a decision. Don't ever feel pressured. And that's what the door knockers are good at. The good ones are good at getting you to sign. And now you're under contract with them.
What's interesting is I've been helping you with a little bit of your marketing, and what's interesting is all of a sudden now I get all of these, and I think this is a good thing for homeowners to hear. I get all of these guys that are coming out going, hey, I made $1 million in roofing. Let me show you how I did as well. And so you're right. These people are very seasoned. They're very good at disarming people and making them feel comfortable. And hey, do you mind if I just take a look at your roof? Just go ahead and sign this right here. Oh, all it is just something saying that if I get hurt, you're not responsible. And those people can be signing something that can be binding that they have to do their roof through these companies, right? So
absolutely.
So
you're signing a contract.
Yeah. So I say, look, I'm not really a big door knocking guy. I don't really care much for people knocking on my door, partially because I can be suckered. So
you have to learn to say, if you're going to answer your door, you have to learn to say no. If
That's
you're not
right.
good at saying no, don't answer your door.
that's exactly right. Yeah. So I just
And I think
felt-
it's weird too, right? That now when someone knocks on your door, you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know, what's when we were growing up, it was a common occurrence. Now it's really weird when someone knocks on your door, unless you're getting packages delivered. And now with everything going on, it's ring the doorbell and run.
right. Yeah.
They just leave it behind.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of made it a rule for me that it's like I put a no soliciting sign on my door, not that they follow it. And there's been guys that literally will still knock on my door. I had a solar company come and knock on my door, and he saw it. It was plain as day right there. And I was like, did you not see that sign? And he was like, oh, yeah, man, I didn't see that. And I'm like, he's like, but anyway, I just wanted to ask you about your roofing.
Yeah. If you're not good at saying no, just don't even answer the door.
For sure. For sure.
And that's the best advice I could give.
Yeah. And then the second thing would be is if you are good at saying no, but they, somebody wants you to get you to sign something. What's funny is I will tell you that my experience with all the complaints I get is there's always what people say versus what's on that piece of paper.
Oh, absolutely.
This
You
means
got to
nothing.
read it.
Yeah.
You got to read if you're going to put your signature on it, you've got to read it.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to me how, look, I'm guilty, but I hear a lot of people that do it as well. And then they'll say verbally, oh yeah, it's nothing. It just says that if I fall off your roof, I can't sue you. When in reality, if they read that thing, it probably binds them. And most people, and these guys are good, seasoned pros, and they're good at going, oh don't worry about it. And the funny thing is when I get complaints, I hear all the time. The one thing I hear the most is, he was such a nice guy,
Right?
You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, if there's anybody that wants to call into the show, gosh, we encourage that. And that is 866-966-2287. If you want to call in and join the show, you can ask Chris questions, or, if you want to chime in and maybe help us educate consumers as good as we can, you can certainly do that as well. So 866-966-2287. So anyway, talking about going back to that, making sure that people don't sign anything. I think that's
Right.
really super important.
Yeah, and a lot of people get super upset with people that knock on their doors, and they, we get a lot of comments on our Facebook page saying, oh, these roofers are a bunch of scammers, they're all from out of town. And, again, there's a lot that are.
Sure.
There's a lot of storm chasers come in from other states when the storm hits here. But there's some good companies. There's some that there's good companies that do not do it, like us. There's good companies that do. It doesn't make them a bad company just because they're being aggressive with their sales.
Sure.
Again, if you're not comfortable to say, and saying no, don't answer the door.
Yeah. One of the things I like to tell people too is that if somebody knocks on your door, like particularly for roofing or say a driveway, I always say, just take a quick peek at their license plates on their truck.
Yeah, if you can see them.
If you can see them. That right there is a good indicator if they're from out of state. That doesn't mean that they're not, because I do know out of state companies that register their vehicles here. And then, you can see Colorado plates, but that doesn't, it's just one thing to look for. So
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So, we get calls all the time, should I replace my roof? I always, but when's the best time to replace your roof, right? When's the best time to replace your water heater? It's the day before it's going to start to leak. It's the day before it stops working. So that is the time that you want to replace your roof, right? No one wants to do it too soon. And if you wait too long, then you could have internal damage. So it's that when is the best time?
Yeah.
I tell people all the time also, rarely do people replace their roof when it hasn't been hit by hail, when it's not an insurance claim or insurance is going to pay for it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that are paying cash in Colorado to replace their roof because they can wait, because the storm will come eventually.
Right.
It's a matter of, when, it's not if, when. It depends, it could be years though before it hits your area. If you have water coming into your home, you need to at least get it repaired. A lot of people just Band-Aid it until the hailstorm comes. Just let's do this repair. Eventually, if hail never comes, they may have to just suck it up and pay cash, and then hope that you don't get hit by hail the next year and have to replace it again.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's what we see mostly in Colorado, just people waiting, waiting for that storm.
One of the things that I've always wondered too is when it comes to, I saw a commercial of a guy, I won't mention his name, but I saw a commercial of a guy who was like, you got to understand these insurance companies, we're here to battle for you. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, to me, it's almost like we're going to twist your arm of your insurance company. Is that something even really somebody can do?
Well, sure. We like working with insurance companies. We get referrals from insurance companies. We want to make sure that we're working on behalf of the homeowner, and we want to make sure that if there's not a claim, if there's not hail damage, but the homeowner calls the insurance company and files a claim, now they're going to get hit with an increase in their policy.
Even if they don't have
even if they do not have any hail damage, because they put a claim in. So what they lose actually is they lose their no claim discount.
Gotcha.
Now, everyone complains that insurance rates continue to go up because of everyone's claims. So you're always going to get stuck with that. So whether you put in a claim or not, you're still a part of a group that's insured by the same company. And if there's a lot of claims, from your group, your rate will go up. If you file a claim, you lose that no claim discount, and then you get hit with a surcharge. So, if you're only filing a claim once every 5 years, that's nothing to worry about. But if you're filing a claim, once every couple years, or let's say if there's multiple claims within a 5-year period, insurance is, again, going to hit you. They could potentially drop you. There's a lot of things that can happen with insurance. So we want to make sure that we give our best assessment to the homeowner so that they can make an educated decision. So a lot of times, it could go 50-50. I mean, I've seen, it could be even worse than that, but I've seen roofs that should get bought and insurance denies it. And you do have rights, by the way, if that's the case. Mm-hmm. You can continue to pursue it, ask them to send someone else out. There's actually people out there, attorneys included, that will take on the insurance companies if they fully believe that there is hail damage and the insurance company is not paying for it. There's homes that we've said, you just don't have enough hail damage, and then they'll get another company out and the roof will get bought. So that's a hard part too. So a lot of times these adjusters from the insurance companies, they'll come out. They may or may not even get on the roof. Good ones will, but some guys, some adjusters get paid, by the roofs that get bought. So they might just look up saying, well, I want to make a little bit of money today, so yeah, I'm going to buy that roof. So it's a tough call because we may say, we don't think that you have damage, and we don't think your insurance company is going to buy it. That's what we pay for your roof. So we don't think you should put a claim in. Well, they might find another company that pursues it, and then it makes us look bad to the homeowner, saying, well, you said we didn't have hail damage. Well, you didn't. you found you got lucky with an adjuster that said they would buy it. And then the company that again fought for that homeowner, they got the roof bought for them. So there's always that back and forth. All we can do is be honest and tell you what we think, and we just don't believe in telling you something that's not true.
Sure.
So here's our opinion, but it is an opinion.
So then it sounds like it's kind of a very fine balancing act for a roofing company. I mean, I guess I look at it like you've got, say you come in and you honestly say it doesn't need to be replaced. It mm-hmm. doesn't have really any hail damage. Well, this other company comes in and they may be the type of company that gambles, right? And mm-hmm. they're like, they're gambling with the homeowner's money mm-hmm. because they, if it doesn't get replaced, then the homeowner gets dinged for that.
Right. And so, we like to give the homeowners, what would you like to do? Do you want to put a claim in or not? And we let them think about it. But, I don't believe in telling someone that they have hail damage when in fact they don't. That's just our policy. I just don't want to subject them to a potential rate increase or a loss of their claim-free discount unless they want to. If everyone's on the same page and that's what they want to do, okay, well then we'll do it. And we'll come out and we'll show, the adjuster what we've seen. A lot of times, though, the adjusters don't even want you on the roof with them now with the COVID and staying apart. It's just been, it's been more challenging. Meeting with homeowners in person has been more challenging. Now we can do everything, just through email and through a portal that we have for our homeowners. That we don't have to meet with you in person if you don't want to.
That's cool.
Some people really still like to meet in person. Others don't want to have anything. They don't want to get around you. So we're set up where we can do both. We can give virtual estimates. We can give them in person. It's really up to the homeowner.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that I think that everybody really is trying to, I'm sure, adjust to. Because I know I don't want somebody knocking on my door. Really, I don't really want.
Well, even let's say that you don't meet with anyone. They come out because you really don't have to unless the homeowner chooses to. But we can come out. We can get on your roof. We can take a look. We don't have to meet with you. We can get back down. We can leave. We can do all of our estimates. We can email you the estimate, and then you can make a decision from there. And then let's say you choose to work with us. We still don't ever have to meet in person unless you want to. So it's completely up to the homeowner and what they want to do.
Very cool. Yeah. So let's talk about insurance.
Okay.
I think some people find out that they don't have the right insurance when it's too late, right?
Yeah, and it's not the right insurance. There's just different kinds of policies. So the best policy that we see is a policy that will pay for a full replacement of your roof less your deductible. And now deductibles change, right? So a deductible could be $500, it could be $1,000, it could be $2,500, $5,000. It could be based on a percentage of the value of your home. There's a lot of different deductibles that are out there and a lot of different policies that are out there, from RCV, which is the replacement cost value, or ACV, which is the actual cost value. And how we can get into how that process works. But what I would let everyone know is check with your insurance company and find out what you have. Call your agent. Just ask them, what did I agree to? What did we sign up for? Most people have no idea what they have. Mm-hmm. And it just being a smart consumer, you should know. Hopefully you did it on the front end, but then you may not remember. So it's just a good idea just to find out and make sure you're comfortable with the policy that you have. And I'm just talking about your roof specifically, because a lot of companies will make an exception, for wind and hail damage to your roof. It's going to cost, your deductible now is 1%, if you have one of those policies. You could still have a flat rate policy or flat deductible, again, like we mentioned, the 500 or the 1,000 or maybe 5,000, whatever the number is. But it's important to know. And then it's important to know, do you have the RCV, the replacement coverage, or do you have the actual cash value, the ACV?
And what's the difference between the two?
Okay, well, so RCV is full replacement, less deductible. That's what they're going to give you. So if at the end of the day, what they do is they send someone out. They'll take a look at the roof. If they feel like it's there is hail damage, and they will quote unquote buy it, right? They will pay for your replacement. They'll put together a spreadsheet of what they're willing to pay. And then they take out the deductible and whatever that number is, and that's what they will ultimately pay you. The first check you get is for the actual cash value, and there's some policies that's all you'll get. In the RCV one, you'll still get the actual cost value, get that check first. So again, they'll come out, they'll put together their numbers, and how they come up with the actual cash value is they say, based on how old your roof is, and they base it on a 30-year life. If it's a 15-year-old roof, they're going to have depreciation of 50%. So at the end of the day, let's say it's $10,000 to replace your roof, less the 50% depreciation. So now they're only going to pay you $5,000 for actual cash value. Then you take out your deductible. Let's say it's $1,000. That's $4,000. They will give you a check for $4,000. That's the first check they're going to send you. If you have an ACV policy, actual cash value policy, that's all you're going to get. You're not going to get any more. And so a lot of people just put that money in their pocket, and then they don't do anything with their roof. even if it's an RCV, a replacement cost value, a lot of people might put that money in their pocket and they never replace their roof. That's their right. They can do that. If they choose to go forward and replace their roof, if it's an ACV policy, they're going to have to pay the difference of whatever the cost is. So again, if the cost is $10,000 and insurance is going to give you $4,000, the homeowner's going to have to write a check for $6,000 when the roof is done. On an RCV policy, replacement cost, once the roof is done and they show proof that the roof has been done with an invoice from a roofing company, then they'll send you the balance. So again, if it's at $10,000 is what they're going to pay for, they sent you out $4,000. They've already taken out the deductible, right? So you're going to get another $5,000. You're not going to get another $6,000. You're going to get $5,000. You're going to get ultimately $9,000. It's a $10,000 roof less your deductible of $1,000. They're going to pay you $9,000. Those are important things to know. A lot of times, what will happen is that there is an insurance claim, but the homeowner does not want to share their claim with the roofing company. They just don't, whether they don't trust the roofing company or they just don't want to share that information. I think that's a bad idea. I think it's always best to share the claim. That way the roofing company knows exactly what the insurance company is going to pay for. And in a lot of cases, let's just say if the homeowner is not willing to share that claim with the roofing company, again, the insurance company is willing to pay $10,000. They have an RCV policy. So ultimately, they're going to get $9,000 from the insurance company. Unless we come in and we say, okay, well, we can do this roof for $9,000. So we then submit an invoice at the end for $9,000. Well, the roofing company now just saved $1,000 of what they were going to pay. And so on the $9,000, they're only actually going to pay $8,000. It's $9,000 is what the total invoice is, less your deductible of $1,000. We're only going to pay, the insurance company is only going to pay $8,000.
Gotcha. So
the roofing company was still fine with it, but the homeowner, there was really no advantage to not share that information. So it's just a decision what they want to make. Do they want a cash price, or do they want us to work within the scope of what insurance is willing to pay for? So that's why it's important. I mean, to know and to trust and to feel confident in the roofing company that you hire. If you're not willing to share that information, why are you even working with that roofing company? Right?
Yeah.
Why should you work with the roofing company if you're not even willing to share that claim with them? And a lot of people say, well, this is my money. This is my money. Well, it is. And we can give you a cash price, and we will absolutely do that. I'm not going to argue with anyone over what they want to do. I'm just trying to explain that it's to no advantage, to not share that information, because there's a lot of things that insurance may have paid for that, in a cash bid, we're just going to say, well, we're just going to remove and replace the roof. Unless you tell us exactly what you want, this is what, we're just going to remove and replace it. Give us some more guidance and we can do more. Because a lot of times there's, decks get damaged, fences get damaged, screens get damaged, skylights get damaged. There's, paint in general, siding. There's a lot that can go into it. So it's always important to work in conjunction with the contractor you're willing to hire. Again, if you don't want to do that, why are you even hiring that company to begin with? If there's a trust issue, you should find someone else.
Yeah.
But it's their right, absolutely. If they just want a cash bid, we'll do it.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Let's talk about the deductible. I've heard a lot of talk of companies that try to, discount their roofs for the deductible. What's legal and what's not legal? Do we want to go into that?
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of companies out there that say, we'll cover your deductible, we'll pay for your deductible. That is not allowed. It's insurance fraud. You can't hide that. You can't pay for that part of it. There are things that you can do, and a lot of people do. I mean, up front they'll say they'll give you a discount. A lot of people will pay for referrals, like, say, hey, I can put you in touch with my neighbor. And that's worth something. Absolutely. Google reviews, Better Business Bureau reviews, just any kind of reviews, positive reviews, right? That takes time from the homeowner. They should be compensated for that. there's a lot of ways around it, but you can't just come right out and say, we're going to pay for your deductible. I mean, that's insurance fraud. It's not allowed. Again, go to the Colorado Roofing Association, and they can tell you all of that. So the companies that are doing that, I mean, it's unfortunately it's standard practice for a lot of companies, and it's a hard one to compete against a lot of times. When the homeowner's saying, well, this company said that they would pay for my deductible, and you say, well, you know what, we don't operate like that. Yeah. There's things that we can do, after the fact, but we can't pay for your deductible. But if you're willing to work, more or less work for us, we're paying you to work for us.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, that's a tough one. And a lot of companies will say it, and they don't even know what the deductible is. They don't know what if the deductible is $5,000? I guarantee you they're not paying for that. The smaller ones, I think most people have gotten so used to the fact that, everyone's deductible is $1,000, but that's not the case. Huh. I mean, there's so many different ranges.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So those are the guys that are asking, well, do you know what your deductible is?
Right. Yeah. But it's an important question, so that the homeowner knows, what
Sure.
they have to come out of pocket for. So, we like to tell them, I mean, the only thing you have to pay for is your deductible. Make sure you understand your policy. We had a homeowner that, had a claim from, a long time ago. And luckily it was with State Farm. So it was within 2 years. And that's the nice part about State Farm. They give you 2 years. I don't know how many other companies do that. But I know that State Farm does. Yeah. And so 2 years ago, they had the claim. They got their first check. They spent their first check. Then they had us do the roof. State Farm said, well, you have to have it done by, it was July 7th, I believe. So we got the work done. We gave them, the invoice. They sent it off. They got the second check, but they had kind of forgot that they had already hadn't spent the first one, so they had to come out of pocket for that. And those things they stink, right? People that have ACV policies, that's again the actual cash value, that's all they're going to get. They got that first check. They thought they were going to get a second check. They didn't tell us that it was an insurance claim. They just said we're paying cash. So we did the work. We gave them the invoice. They sent the invoice over to the insurance company, and insurance said, you know what, that's not included in your policy. Had they shared that with us, we could have told them that you're not going to get any more money, just so you know. If you still want to do your roof, we want to do it for you.
Right.
But just because you have hail damage doesn't mean your roof needs to be replaced.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it could still, it could still be fine. So if you're only getting, I say, when you get that first check, put it away, because eventually you're going to need to replace your roof. Mm-hmm. So put it away, and maybe you can earn a little bit of interest. It can go towards the roof if you're not going to do it right away. It's a business decision. When you spend the money to go on vacation, that's not a good business decision. So
no, not a good one. It's funny. You're talking about that. I don't remember the exact details, but I had American Family Insurance. Mm-hmm. Certainly not knocking them, but for whatever reason, maybe I was past the time, but I remember calling my insurance agent and saying, hey, I'm ready to get my roof replaced. Oh, you're way too late. It's mm-hmm. past due. Can't do it now.
Yeah, and you called your agent, correct?
Yeah.
You didn't call American Family directly.
Right.
Okay. And so agents don't like claims. And,
right.
and again, I'm not an insurance agent. I just know that, if they get claims, they get judged on how many claims they have. And if there's too many claims that they have, something happens. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not good, right? So they would prefer to never have claims. And if he may have, I would hope not, but it sounds like he kind of detoured you from putting in a claim because it's not good for his book of business.
Yeah, that was like 20 years ago before I actually started learning about all this stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you don't even have to check with your agent. When you have a claim, you can call directly into the company.
Oh, gotcha.
And you don't have to deal with your agent at all. And in fact, most agents just will say, well, here's the number, call it in. Some of them will do it for you,
Really?
but most of them would be like, yeah, just call it in directly.
Well, I think that was probably the mistake I made because I kind of thought that he would advocate for me.
You would think that. You would hope for that.
Right.
And that's why it's important to know. And now, we all used to know our insurance agent 20 years ago, but now with all the online stuff,
So
right,
different.
no one has, if you have a Progressive or Geico or, you don't really know an agent. You're just calling a number anyway.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of good companies and there's, and again, you can do a whole few shows on insurance itself, but there's brokers out there that can work with all companies that aren't captive. The big ones are captive. So the people that work for State Farm, that's all they sell. American Family is probably the same. Farmers is probably the same. Just the big ones are, that's all they sell. They work, for that company. And then the brokers can work for everyone and sell all the other policies outside of, State Farm and the captive company, State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, and some others.
Mm-hmm.
So, some people want to work and be with State Farm, and you'll work with a State Farm agent. Other people want to shop and see what a broker can do, with other companies. I was talking with my agent, coincidentally, on the way over here, and he was telling me that State Farm in Colorado has like 28% market share.
Wow.
And, that's pretty cool that they have so much. But when a hailstorm comes in a certain area, and let's just assume that, wherever it gets hit, if it's, just call it Denver, right? So of all of their claims, they're going to have 28% of the market share, of all claims in Denver. Well, now you're paying for that increase, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of money that they have to dish out, everyone in Denver and in Colorado for that part, they're going to pay for that higher rate too. And again, I love State Farm, so I'm not knocking State Farm and good for them for 28%. But he was saying a lot of times you might want to look at companies you really never heard of, that have a very small footprint in the market that you live in, because you might never get hit with an increase in your insurance on an annual basis, like you will for sure on the big companies. It seems like every year the rates are going up. Now, again, if you have claims, then your no claim discount goes away. If you file a claim, you get hit with a surcharge for that. So there's a lot of different things. Again, I'm not an insurance agent. I'm just kind of talking on a higher level here on just conversations I've had and things that I've seen over the years and working with homeowners and working with insurance companies. I mean, they are a necessary evil. Again, we love them because they do give us referrals, but it's frustrating to watch how they take money from consumers every single month, and a lot of them it's sometimes it's a little bit of a fight to get money back. Yeah. And it's other things we've dealt with insurance, that last check, right? So if you have the RCV policy, right, that's the replacement cost value. At the end of the job, you're going to get everything less your deductible for what the insurance company is willing to pay. The last check they send out to you, though, sometimes it's made out to you and your mortgage company. So then you have to get endorsed by your mortgage company in order to cash it and put it in the bank to pay your roofer, or you can always then get the mortgage company to endorse it, and you can endorse it and then just hand that check over to the roofing company. It's a process, kind of a pain in the butt.
Why do they make it so difficult, do you think?
Well, because the mortgage company, they have, they're tied to that home.
home.
Absolutely. So if you actually didn't do the replacement, the value is lower. And it's, the mortgage company has the right to know that. So I understand why. But we ran into a situation where the homeowner sold their home in between when they put the claim in versus when they got the roof done. So the check comes in for the RCV policy, and it's made out to the homeowner and the mortgage company, but they don't have an account with the mortgage company anymore.
Oh, man.
So it was with Wells Fargo, and they have no accounts with Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo just happened to be their mortgage company at the time. They sold the house 9 months ago, went to Wells Fargo. And so this is, and then let's make it even one step more complicated. It was a deaf client. So I'm trying to help the client. So I'm working on behalf of the client. So because it's just easier for me to communicate with the bank. Call the bank. They say, okay, well, if we can, have the client come down, show proof that they no longer own the home, bring your driver's license, all this, and it just wasn't enough for the bank to say okay. Now we had to go back to the insurance company and send the same information back to them, and we still don't have the final check, and this has now been 3 months. So the roofing company, us, has to wait, for final payment, which will eventually happen. It's just not a fun process for anybody.
Yeah, no doubt.
So other times they'll just send you a check and it'll just be in your name. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder if it has anything to do with the LTV.
Well, no, because are you talking about loan to value?
Yeah. Maybe they've got 50% equity in the house, and at that point they don't care, right?
Well, no, this is the insurance company.
Okay, I was talking about the mortgage.
Well,
I guess it wouldn't matter. I guess you're right.
They didn't even have a lien against the property anymore because the property's been sold.
Huh, okay.
It's now just getting the insurance company to reissue a check.
Gotcha.
So first we were trying to get Wells Fargo just to endorse it, but being that she no longer had an account with Wells Fargo, they were like, no, we're not going to endorse this. So now we had to go back to the insurance company.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was and it's still frustrating because we're financing basically the roof.
Sure.
And having to wait.
Yeah.
When normally we should just get paid when the job is done, and the homeowner should then be the one that has to fight for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. But then we leave them all alone, and we're not advocating for them. So we want to help them through the process and let them know, hey, look, we're in this together. When you get paid, we'll get paid.
So to add some perspective to what you're talking about and why you are a part of TrustPatrick.com is these are the things that you go over and above to help consumers. I haven't heard you once say, well, when we sit down and we make sure this is all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed because we want to make sure we get paid. And the exact opposite of that, to give some perspective, are companies that will actually get the homeowner to write them a check for the materials or whatever the case may be up front, and then they go in a storm area and collect 100.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy on the news just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that collected over $150,000 in checks and bolted to like Michigan or something with people's money.
Yep. That wouldn't be the first time. And it's there's a statistic from the Better Business Bureau, and I can't remember if it's 2018, but let's just, for argument's sake, say it was in 2018, 14% of homeowners, when needing to get their contractor to come back, couldn't find the contractor. And I think that was specific to roofing in general, but it could have been all contractors. But 14%,
that is
can't
amazing.
even find them.
Yeah.
That shows do a little due diligence on the front end to make sure you're not falling into that category where you can't find your contractor when you need something done. Because I'll tell you what, when you put a roof on at first, it's not going to leak the next day.
Sure. And it probably looks good from the street.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to take a little while for the areas of corners that they may have cut
for them
to rear its ugly head.
Yeah.
To show damage on the inside of your home, and it's and shoot with what you do with asphalt, same thing. It looks beautiful when it's done. They could just put a small coating on top, and I don't know what industry average is. You've told me before. What is it? A couple inches?
Yeah, I think it's National Asphalt Pavement Association says the minimum should be 2 inches.
Okay.
Absolute minimum.
So a lot of people
compacted.
Yeah, a lot of people do one, right?
Cut
corners.
I've seen these guys are like skilled artists at putting it down at a half of an inch thick.
Okay. And how is a homeowner supposed to know anything? They don't, right? It just looks good, but then it fails. But it's not going to fail the next day. It takes time for it to fail. This
is where I have kind of an issue with online reviews. I'm not going to single any company out, but I don't think that people should rely 100% on online reviews, especially the younger a company is, because people, hey, can you do me a favor? Maybe I'll give you a $100 Visa gift card if you go and write a good review about us. And then a year down the road or 2 years down the road, like you said, it starts to rear its ugly head, and they forget they even put that good review out on them. And they've got all these great reviews. That's the one issue about just relying on online reviews that I think that people really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, but it's just it's just part of society now. People do.
Yeah, they do. And I factor it in on everything I do.
Yeah, well, right? And I have to be better at it as a company to get these good reviews, and so that because it's a new way of doing business for us. I mean, I'm older, so it's
for us.
I have to we have a whole checklist of things that we make sure gets done throughout the process, so that at the end of the job, if every one of these milestones gets accomplished, then we know we've done our job to the best of our ability. And we know that everything, T's crossed, I's dotted, like you were saying. So we make sure that happens on our end. We're a very technologically advanced company. And now part of the checklist is to ask for that Google review,
right.
Where that wasn't, a few years ago, that wasn't, as big of a deal to us, but now it is an important part of doing business. But yeah, that's just one of the many things that we go through throughout the process, so that again, the homeowner knows that at the end of the day, they've gotten the best job from us that they could get.
Well, that's the thing about you too. Everything you're talking about, you're focused more on customer service than you are about filling your bank account with money.
Well, yeah, and customer service is so important. There's a lot of good roofing companies out there. It's not very difficult to put on a roof.
Right.
So there's a lot of good roofers that are maybe horrible business people. There's a lot of good business people that they might not have great crews. And we can get into that as well. Like, what should you look for in a good roofing company? What questions should you ask? Are we done talking about insurance? There's other things I can mention. A couple things with insurance. Just stories that we've come up with. I'm dealing with a roof right now. Homeowner bought a home in May. They called us just this week. They had some gutter issues. We went out and took a look at it. The roof has got significant hail damage. So what do you do at that point? They should have had a good inspector when they bought the roof. When they bought the house, to tell them that the roof had hail damage. But maybe they just bought the house as is. I'm going to get more detail as I talk to them. I just found this out this morning. So one thing they can do is go back to the seller, and they can ask the seller, hey, would you be willing to file a claim? Because the damage happened when the seller still owned the home. Right. And then again, when I was talking with my agent, that was one of the reasons. He was saying that there's two types of claims on top of ACV and RCV. There's also an occurrence-based policy. So as long as the policy was in place when the occurrence happened, insurance will cover it. And then other times it's I think they call it a claims-based policy. So it's when you put the claim in, if you don't have coverage, they're not going to cover it. Most consumer policies are occurrence-based, where they'll go back, but that's one option. But what you don't know yet is, did that homeowner already take that ACV check, that first check, and never do the roof?
Yeah.
And there is a database that all insurance companies can look at that will show if a claim was made. Now, they don't know if you actually finished the roof or not. They haven't gone that far. They could do more research if they wanted to, but it's not. They don't typically, is my understanding. So that's another type of a policy that's out there. There's just a lot of interesting, things that you should know. Just make a call to your insurance agent and just ask. And if you don't have a specific agent, it's all online. Just ask. Figure out how to go online and get those questions answered. It's important to know so that you're not surprised when it's time for you to make a claim. And it's not, you don't have to do it for just roofs. You can do it for other things also, but it seems like roofing is highly dependent on insurance coverage for most people. Most people, like we talked about earlier, are not replacing their roof for cash.
Yeah.
They usually will wait for a storm unless it's so bad that they have to.
Well, and I do want to mention too, for those that may be watching this or listening, if they're not sure and they're looking for a good insurance company, that's what I do at trustpatrick.com is I pre-screen and background check companies. And I only work with the best companies out there. I work with insurance agents that are consumer oriented. They're not, they're not money driven. I mean, sure they are to some degree, but they're consumer oriented. They want to build their business the right way. So anyway, if anybody wants to go to trustpatrick.com to find a company, they can certainly do that. So, Okay, so roofing wise, another thing I want to mention too is if somebody wants to call in and maybe ask a question about roofing, about the insurance part of it. You seem to be really knowledgeable about the insurance.
Yeah, but I'm not an agent, so
Sure.
all I can do is talk about what I've seen.
Sure.
Just conversations I've had with other agents. Really the question is, what do you have?
Sure.
And if you like your agent, stay with them. They can maybe work a policy to how you want it. Again, what my buddies that are in insurance, what they see is that most people are like, yeah, okay, fine, good. They just kind of trust the agent. But at the end of the day, and not that you shouldn't, but just understand, like, what are you agreeing to? So for an example, in my home, I have a concrete tile roof, right? So I put my deductible at $5,000 because I don't think I'm going to have a storm big enough that's going to affect my roof. Mm-hmm. If I had an asphalt shingled roof, I would make sure that my deductible was a lot lower. Because I wouldn't, more than likely at some point in time, I'm going to get hit with hail, and I would hate to have to write a $5,000 check instead of a $1,000 check.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's talk. Let's go into the things that we were just going to mention. Let's talk about what are the things that people should look for in a roofing company. First of all, you got the storm chasers or the storms. If they were going to work with a company that knocked on their door, what would you say would be the first thing that they should look for in a company?
Well, again, I wouldn't recommend signing anything with anyone that knocks on your door.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, though, if we were to knock on your door, if that was part of our practice and we were to knock on our door, I'll tell you what, I would have my guys trained to make sure you sign that contract. Right? Because that would be the goal of knocking on a door. Right. So because I don't want to do that, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on. I don't want to have that practice.
Right.
But I would just tell the homeowner, if you answered the door, just say, okay, let me think about it. Let me get back to you. There's all kind of tricks that they'll throw at you because you can't do the due diligence you need to do in the time that they're giving you.
Exactly.
So you need to, at that point, say, okay, I just need to go through a few things. And you're hoping that the company you're talking to is telling you the truth with the answers that they give. Mm-hmm. But the main thing that I think is to make sure that you have a contact that you can call whenever there's an issue. Now, most roofs, you're in and out in a day. All right, so it's not a huge inconvenience to your life. The biggest issue is if something happens during that day, right? Someone falls through the decking into your living room, right? That's a huge problem. Who are you going to call? Who's your contact? Not Ghostbusters here, right? But who's your contact at the roofing company? Because I'll tell you what, the guys on the roof probably don't speak English. And if they fall through the decking, I can guarantee you they no longer speak English. So they will not be talking to you. And I'm not trying, this is just the truth that they're not going to want to talk to you because they don't know what to do, right? They don't want to hold themselves out there. You need to get a hold of someone that you can communicate with. That could be this, and as an example with our company, right? You more than likely have a salesperson and you have a project manager and you have an owner, all of which that you can reach at any point in time. For me, I'm not a roofer by trade, right? I'm a business person, and I know the most important thing for a consumer is to make sure they can reach somebody. Mm-hmm. I make sure I'm always available. I can get back to someone. And again, there's a lot of good companies out there that will operate the exact same way. So that's just a question too. How do I make sure I can reach someone? I need cell numbers. I need office numbers. I want to know when I call, do you answer the phone or do you always get voicemail, right? That's a pretty big thing.
Yeah, but that's a really big thing.
And a lot of times, right, if you're working out of your truck and you don't have an office with a receptionist, is that bad to say? Is that what everyone's called now? A reception or an office manager? Right? So if there's not someone there answering the phones, right, because someone's actually on the roof,
Yeah.
And they're difficult to get a hold of. Again, I'm not saying they're a bad company. I'm just saying it's going to be a lot harder to get a hold of someone. So, for me, I would say, who are my contacts? Do I have office numbers and cell numbers? When I call, does someone, can I always reach someone at some point in time? Is there a physical location, or is the person working out of their truck?
Yeah.
We have an office and a showroom. I don't think anyone's ever seen our showroom, though. People just don't come to the office, but we have it. Anytime you want to, you can come by and say hello.
Well, and you have a physical office. You can actually go to your office, you can knock on the door. There's a reception desk.
You can see our showroom.
Reception desk is PC. You can say that.
Okay. Reception desk.
Yeah, you have a reception desk. So here's two things. Number one, I always tell people, this is something I think is extremely important, especially when it comes to the storms. And even I talk about asphalt driveways the same way. If somebody knocks on your door, there's something that in sales I learned years ago, and I'm kind of letting people in on a little secret. And there is something that I was taught, and that is called getting into people's emotions. And these guys are trained very well to get into you and tap into your emotions. And one of the things that I've always said is that don't buy into any urgency. That's where people really get stuck, and I don't know how much it happens with roofs, but I can imagine a roofing guy saying, man, you've got to get this thing fixed now or it's going to leak everywhere and you're going to damage your house. You sign this thing. That urgency, in my opinion, you don't fall for it. You just don't fall for that urgency.
If there's a hole in your roof, obviously you've got some emergency. Sure. You've got to get it taken care of. A lot of times, though, it's just you have hail damage.
Yeah.
If you don't have any water intrusion right now. And again, companies, when the storms come, they could stay busy for a year from one storm. It could be longer than a year.
Yeah.
So the ones that have the biggest damage have to get taken care of first.
Sure. Yeah.
If you have right now, everyone's pretty slow, but it used to be. If you could get a roofer to come and do your job, within a week,
you'd be lucky.
You got to put a big question mark as to why. Why are you not busy?
Oh, sure.
Are you new into town?
Yeah.
Do you have a bad reputation?
Yeah.
Why can you get out here so quickly?
Yeah.
When other people are telling you 6 months. And you as a homeowner saying 6 months, do I really want to wait that long?
Yeah.
So for us, we want to make sure that we're able to stay in a reasonable time period. So we have employees, but we also do work with subcontractors. Some people only work with subcontractors. Mm-hmm. I don't know of any companies. I'm not saying there's not. I don't know of any, though, that only work with employees. Because it's hard, because right now is a good example. There was very few storms last year. There hasn't been a big storm yet this year. Can you imagine if you're paying 10 crews to wait around? Now you can do that for a period of time, but can you do it for a year and a half?
Yeah, exactly.
How long do you want to have to do that? So that's my opinion on it. However, we make sure that our crews our subcontractors are insured. So that's a huge thing, because a lot of times you're working with, some people work with subcontractors that aren't insured properly, which going back to insurance, making sure that the business has proper insurance, proper liability insurance, proper excess insurance, and auto insurance and workers' comp insurance, which you have to have if you have employees. For people that don't have employees, they don't carry it; they're able to waive out of it, and that means that they're subbing everything out. Again, I don't. I personally don't agree with that, but there's a lot of companies that do, and there's some good companies that just sub work out. It's up to you.
Yeah.
As a business owner, what you want to choose, we choose to have our own guys, and then sub some out when needed. So what's able to keep us busy on a day in, day out basis, we do a lot of new home building. Or we're not doing the building, we're putting the roofs on the new homes for developers.
Right.
So we're able to stay busy year round and keep people employed. Now there's smaller margins in that business versus on the re-roofing business. And so companies that only do the re-roof stuff, that they'll focus on where they can make the most profit. We've got guys that just focus on the home building, and then we've got guys that just focus on the re-roof. So. Mm-hmm. That's our model, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but that's how we operate.
Right. And just this is one thing also that I've found in the roofing industry is that, and not all, but could be some, is that just because it's going to be subcontracted doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get any less quality of work. You have subcontractor agreements, and you do quality control with your subcontractors. Yeah.
I try not to use subcontractors if I don't have to, and here's why. because you have a subcontracted crew, and let's say it takes them 6 hours to do a roof, but they get it done in 5 because they know they've got another roof they can go do, and they can get 2 roofs done in one day. If they start cutting corners, if you don't have a project manager out there that's going to manage it, that's the writing on the wall for a bad job. Where if you have employees, right, they're getting paid regardless. Now, I don't want them taking all day, but typically, if they're on a job for 6 hours, there's not much that you can do for the next 2, unless there's maybe a repair job here or there.
Right.
But that 6 hour day for them is a full day, because I don't have anywhere else to send them to maybe. So I like that part of it because I know that they're going to, I don't want them taking like lollygagging around, right? But I know that they're not rushing through anything. They're staying focused. There's enough profitability in a roof for us that they can be there the full day, whether it's 6 hours or 8 hours, or even if it's 4, that we don't need to get them off and get them onto another job. Again, that's just how we operate. But we also have a project manager there to make sure that the job is getting done right, and to make sure that there's it's not unheard of that there's theft, not from the homeowner, from the roofing company. So all of a sudden you have a bundle of shingles missing, you've got a box of nails that are missing, you've got some metal edging that's missing, because that can be resold.
Sure.
So you got to make sure you've got good, trustworthy people. We don't stand for that. We see people, and it's not unheard of. People have, stolen from companies.
Yeah.
The history of companies. We're not exempt from that, but that's why I like to have someone out there that can make sure that that's not happening. That's just money out of our pocket, and I don't want to stand for that. We've never had an issue because we're not inside anyone's home where people are stealing things. That's never been an issue, thankfully, and nor can I see it ever happening that way. Because again, we've got someone out there that's watching it and making sure. Again, I think the main issue then once the roof is done is the cleanup, right? Because I think for the most part, homeowners, they see it as long as it looks nice. They don't really know, but there could be 1,000 nails in the gutters that unless they get up there, they're not going to see. I send one of my guys up there to make sure my guys are actually doing a good job, and they're not leaving nails behind on the roof, and they're not leaving debris on the roof. And then on the ground, it's also critically important, especially if you have pets. You don't want nails that a pet could step on. Yeah,
or in your car tires for that matter.
Yeah, for sure. That doesn't usually happen. It can, on a homeowner, it happens, often sometimes on commercial jobs because they're so big. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
But, yeah, anyway, it's that's the main thing I think for homeowners is the cleanliness. How does it look,
when they're done
visually, and then how's the cleanup?
And this is still part of the process of looking at companies. We're not necessarily talking about this person's roof. We're talking about if your neighbor's having theirs done and you're going to get yours done. Take a look at that.
Right.
See how they leave the cleanup. See how,
absolutely.
Maybe ask the homeowner, hey, what was your experience with these guys from the very beginning?
Yeah, no, that's great questions to ask your neighbors, and why you don't and shouldn't necessarily rush into making a decision unless you have water intrusion. Yeah, I'd say just take your time. Choose the right company.
Yeah,
it's going to save you a lot of headache for the day that it's happening, and then years down the road. So,
and again, going back to what we were talking about, I said the first thing is there's nothing that has to be done today, unless of course your roof is leaking, right? So there's this. If you get pressured from a roofing company that, oh my gosh, you got to do it today, and you can see clearly with your own 2 eyes that you don't have any leaks, there's no need to make any decisions today. Now, let me ask you a question. You're not an insurance agent, but let's just say that some guy said there was a leak, and I said, I don't feel comfortable signing anything today. I'm going to get another roofing company out here, or I'm going to get my insurance adjuster. If that roof happened to leak between that moment and whatever, they'd cover that, right?
Insurance?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not like they're going to not have that covered.
No, insurance wants you to mitigate the damages. So if you have a hole in your roof, they want you to put a tarp on it. They don't want you to leave it open so that it continues to make a bunch of damage on the inside.
Correct.
So that's really all they're looking for. So you can get, and we've done this plenty of times. So someone's called up and said, look, I just need a tarp that's put on here. Now, for us, if we do a good job putting the tarp in, we think, hey, we got a pretty good shot of getting hired to actually do the replacement. But there's been times that they've chosen because they've got, a neighbor or, a relative or something that will actually do it, or, there could be other factors that are at play. But, we've come out and done the tarp and not done the roof. Normally it doesn't happen, but it can.
Sure.
And so for me, I'm like, well, that's a bummer, but they made the decision for whatever, reason it was. I don't think it was ever because they didn't like us, but I hope not.
Right.
We didn't get a bad review.
Yeah.
But that can happen. So yeah, just mitigate your damages. You still don't have to feel so rushed. I mean, it's a little bit different than, because the rain will stop. Right. Versus like a main line that's broke and your basement is flooding, or backed up and your basement is flooding, and it's going to continue. I guess you can shut the water off, but then you've got mold issues potentially, and just that's just gross anyway. Down in the basement. Yeah. So that's again a different situation. Colorado is so dry that you need to still check, but it doesn't happen often that we find, mold. You cut the water source off, which is in this case rain. Right. Things are damp, get it dried out. Yeah. And then we'll get the roof back on.
So the first step would be don't fall for the urgent stuff. I think the second thing is that I always say watch what people write on their contract versus what they say.
Yes. For sure. And read the contract. Yeah. Read the contract. So if you're going to sign it, read it.
Well, what's interesting too, that when we talk about that, is that I at me being in sales or estimating out with driveways, people will say, "Do you mind if I read this?" No, not at all. And it's funny because they'll go, "So what is this? Does this mean that I have to do?" And I could easily go, "Oh yeah, no, that means nothing." So if you're not comfortable signing a contract because you don't understand something, don't sign it. Right. There's no point in
and don't ask the salesperson to explain it to you.
Right. Because they're going to explain it to you.
Well, I mean, again, it's, you don't know how they're going to explain it to you. Right. So, just understand it. And if you don't understand it, cross it out, initial it. I say, I don't agree with this. You've got every right to do that.
Wow. Yeah,
they don't, cool. The roofing company doesn't have to accept it, but if you don't agree with it, you can cross it out.
Well, and the other thing would be very important for them to get a carbon copy of it.
Absolutely.
Because if they don't have a carbon copy, they can go write whatever they want on it.
Yeah, contracts, to my understanding, because we're redoing our contract, so I've met with our attorney, that it has to state on the contract that you have a 72-hour right of rescission. Those are for in-home sales. Mm-hmm. So just know that, and it should be on all
and that's
your
specific to Colorado, or is that nationwide?
I only do roofs in Colorado, so I don't know. Okay. But it's
be good knowledge for me to find out for people calling in.
But it's and I would make sure too that again, there's guidelines that you need to follow when you present an estimate. There's guidelines that you need to follow when you present a contract. The Colorado Roofing Association is a great resource for people. If you want to spend the time and take a look at it. But, contracts and estimates need to include what materials you're going to use. They can't just say, we're going to do it for the price of what insurance is willing to pay. Although people do that all the time. I've seen it all the time. It needs to be specific. And that's why it's nice sometimes to get that contract. Now you can change it, just because I present here's my cash price contract, because they might not have their insurance claim yet. If they want a cash price before they get their claim back, okay, I have no problem presenting them with here's our cash price. Here's without knowing what insurance is willing to pay for. This is what we see. This is what that we'll do, and here you go. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that we can't change it if everyone's agreeable to it. Right. But if the homeowner says, nope, I want you to do exactly what you put on the contract, well, okay. We stand behind our contract. I'm not looking to change it. However, if the claim comes in and you may say, well, wow, and rarely are we more than what, I've never seen a case actually where we've been more than what insurance is willing to pay. Mm. But so sometimes they'll say, well, insurance is willing to give me $12,000, but your price is only $10,000. And then I can explain to them, Well, okay. Do you want us to do everything that's on the claim? If so, we'll do it for that price. I just need to see it. I just need to see what it is that they want us to do. And again, if they're, willing to listen and understand that, you're not going to get that money from insurance.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing I think I would think is,
Right.
he bids for 10.
Right.
They're going to give me 12. I
Right.
get to pocket 2.
You don't. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that.
Yeah.
They will only pay you for the work that you paid out. This is not a profit deal. All right. They're going to pay my $10,000 bill.
Interesting.
Less
Yeah.
your deductible still.
Yeah.
They're not going to give you 12 and you're walking away with money.
I can imagine
Yeah.
an unethical roofing company saying, "Oh yeah, you'll get that difference." I could imagine them saying that.
Just
sign with me. I'll make sure you get it. I don't know. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about roofing.
And for me, I would like the homeowner to give us referrals. So when they have someone,
Right.
I know you just got your roof done. Who did it for you? I want them to refer their family and their friends and their neighbors. Because it never happens that one home in a neighborhood gets hit.
Right.
It's multi. Sometimes it's weird that you may have the only home in the neighborhood that didn't get hit, but there's going to be multiple homes that get hit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the analogy I guess I can draw is like, again, I say I've been out doing estimating for driveways for forever, for 25 years. And, I run across situations where they say, hey, my neighbor wants to get a quote too. Mm-hmm. And what I find is the second neighbor really lets their guard down and they don't do any due diligence on the company. And I've lost jobs to companies that were unethical, horrible companies. And just because this neighbor said, "Oh, I'm using this company," the other neighbor did too. And next
Right.
thing you know, now there's 2 driveways that weren't installed right.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure the same thing happens with roofing.
Yep. Absolutely.
And
that's the guy that took the $150,000 that you mentioned.
Oh yeah, that's how he did it. Probably,
absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yeah. There's some companies that are very good at canvassing, and they hit homes hard, and they put signs out, and nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. With any of it.
Yeah.
It's as long as they're honest companies. There's some companies that do this that are they're good roofing companies.
Yeah.
And part of their sales is door knocking. That's a big part of it. And they're very successful at it. They're also a good company. I'm not knocking them.
Right.
But there's more bad than there are good. And I think that's why the Roofing Association says don't work with door knockers, because there are far more bad companies than there are good companies.
Yeah.
And I think now today too, just especially with COVID and social distancing, that people don't want you in their home. They just don't.
Yeah.
So, that's why we can do everything virtually if we need to.
Yeah, that's very cool. What are some other things people should look for, in a good company? How do they know, I know me, I'm busy. I live a busy life. There's times that I just don't, I got a company here. He seems like a nice guy. I just want to just get it done, which obviously a lot of times those are the people that end up getting, the short end of the stick. What are other things they can do to help avoid getting wrapped up with the wrong company?
Well, really, it comes down to the homeowner actually doing the due diligence, which requires time and phone calls or internet searches. You just don't blindly believe what the contractor is telling you. Do a little bit of research and find out. And really, you should be able to do it in an hour. You should be able to get all the information you need in about an hour's time. Now, it might not be an hour straight. It might take you 15 minutes one day and 15 minutes the next, because you have to either wait for a return phone call or, I think that's really the only thing I can think is if you have to wait for a return phone call. But I would make sure that you do it. Too many people don't. And again, with the television show, we are on CBS, Channel 4 here in Denver. We broadcast, across the entire Front Range. There's a lot of people that were watching, and we would tell them every day, here's what you need to do, and people just don't do it. They don't, and it's it's always fine if everything turns out fine.
Right.
It's when
and
you
those
have
are the
a
stories
problem,
you don't hear about.
Yeah, that and you can't fix it at that point,
Yeah.
And it had you just done your due diligence, because even good companies, sometimes bad things happen. It's how they handle it that makes them a good company.
Exactly.
And I've had jobs, unfortunately, that that no matter what, there was just a problem after a problem after a problem, but no matter what, I'm going to take care of that problem, even if I lose money.
Yeah. That's a good company.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
But, and again, I'm not the only one. There's other companies that do this too. So I'm not saying that I'm the only good company out there. There are a lot of good companies, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of super bad companies. You talked about the $150,000 example where the guy took the money and ran. Mm-hmm. The 14% statistic from the Better Business Bureau that people looking for their contractor when they need them a year or so later can't even find them. Mm-hmm. There's just issues that come up all the time.
Yeah. That's why it's just extremely important to if you don't have the time to do the due diligence, again, I always say go to trustpatrick.com, because what we do, you went through the process. We did a criminal background check on you. We did a credit check on you. We checked out a credit check on your company. We wanted to make sure that you weren't 90 days away from bankruptcy. We check out your online reviews. We take screenshots of everything. I mean, we checked out your licensing, your insurance. Mm-hmm. We get added as a certificate holder to your insurance, so that if you dropped your insurance, we would know, we would get notified if we take you off the site. Right. So people are always getting connected with the most current, up-to-date companies that are the best, that meet our criteria. We also have on the website, it's not up yet, but it's going to be up shortly, which is the 5 most important things to look for in a roofing company. We have the same thing with asphalt. We have the same thing with other service categories. And people can go to the site, and if they request to get contacted, say by you, they're going to get that list of the top 5 things to look for, so that they can be a little quicker in their process of doing their due diligence. So I just wanted to mention that, because that's what you went through. And quite frankly, I've turned down more roofing companies that I've actually approved on the site. Same thing with the asphalt. I turned down more companies than I actually let on, because I want to give people the best, most up-to-date current companies that are doing the best work. And obviously you're the only one at this moment that met the criteria. So,
well, again, our focus is, it's consumer advocacy first. That's my entire background for 25 years. I'm a business person second, and I'm a roofer third. Now my partner, he's a roofer. Right, so we got someone that knows what they're doing on the roof. I know a lot about roofing, but I've never put a roof on. I mean, honestly, I've never done it. Right, but I know how. If I would have to do it, I hope I never have to do it. I don't, I'm not afraid of heights, but I don't really like being on roofs. But my partner, he's a Denver native. He's born and raised. I think it was Thornton. Born and raised here.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
He's never left. Never left.
Very good guy.
The state. He's gone on vacation.
Sure.
And it sounds like it has to be here for, he's restricted to leave the state. No, he's allowed to leave the state. He just chooses not to.
Right.
But he goes on vacation. But he knows, he knows roofing inside and out. Now, he's been a roofing company. That's all he's done, with his company. For most of his adult life, he's been in the roofing business. Mm-hmm. So he's worked with good companies. He's worked with bad companies. He started his own company. I used him on the television show when we had roofing issues before we started our company, because ours was not just roofing exclusively when we first started off. We were helping consumers with everything. Roofing was a big component, but we would work with, Ryan is his name. His company was Aspire Roofing. We would work with him, and then Ryan and I partnered together, to form 303 Roofer. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing too. And it's so hard, I think now. There could be you could be the best roofer in the world, and when you're first starting out and you first start your new company, right? You have 1 day of experience as a new company, but you could have 30 years as a roofer, right? So just because a company is brand new doesn't mean they're a bad company.
Right.
You
do have to be careful.
You got to be careful, but how does everyone starts off from day one at some point, right? So someone has to trust them in order for them to build a business and continue and then have that longevity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, but I don't know how you handle that now.
Yeah,
it used to be easier, but now with all the information that's out there,
it's tough. I will tell you that even in asphalt, there's a guy in Denver He does great work, but he goes out there and he tells people, I've been doing this 30 years, but yet he's been registered with the state for 3. And then he says, oh, I bought 3 other companies around here. I know all the companies around here. He didn't buy 3 companies. So he says that as a really nice, good sales pitch, which is, but he does good work. I mean, what I can see, I don't know what the longevity of it is, but you're right. There's a lot of companies out there that they get mixed up. They kind of convolute the how long they've been in business versus how long they've been in the industry.
Right.
And so they throw out I've been doing this 30 years, and people go, wow, that's a great stable company, and those two don't really match.
Right.
They're not the same, right? So but you're right. I've had contractors call me and say, hey, I just got started and I really want to be part of your network. And I say, I'm sorry, you have to have at least a year experience. And they get really angry with me. They're like, that's not fair. How am I supposed to get out there?
Yeah.
Well,
I feel for them because it could be great.
Yeah.
But, and again, someone has to hire them or they're not going to be in business.
Yeah.
So someone has to trust them.
Yeah.
It's hard because there's always going to be new companies.
Yeah.
And it's like for us, so every person we hire will potentially be one of our competitors.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that's just part of the business.
Yeah.
But it's harder for them. It's hard. I think it's harder in general right now for new companies, especially now. Going as long as we have without a big storm. Someone that just started up last year, they're going to be. It's going to be thin. Real thin for them.
Yeah, for sure. Any other things important that you think that people should look for? I mean,
one thing, and we've never put a roof on top of another roof. So you're allowed to, though. In the state, you are allowed to, on top of one layer, you can put another layer of shingle on top.
Okay.
We've never done that. We've always taken the roof down to the decking and then put on brand new underlayment and a brand new roof. You are, however, allowed to put on, like I said, shingles on top of one layer.
What would be the instance that someone would even do that?
I guess just to save money.
Maybe they spent that first check and
they
don't
just
have to pay for the removal.
Maybe it's a rental property.
Gotcha.
We've never done it. But I was just thinking about that on the way over. I mean, the main reason is that you just don't know the shape of the decking, right? So I mean, if the decking is bad and you put just another layer on top, you're not solving the issue of the bad decking. You don't know how old the underlayment is. Underlayment is very important in protecting your roof. So you still have that very old underlayment. So just I would make sure if you own the home and you occupy that home, don't unless there's a financial reason to do it, I would not recommend it. But I mean, we see roofs that have like 4 or 5 layers. I mean, it's not uncommon to see multiple layers on a roof. I'm just wondering who's doing that and why, and if they just don't know, or maybe like we talked about, maybe it's a rental. But I still, again, you're not allowed to do this. So in pulling a permit, you can't. If it's getting inspected, that would never pass.
That's a good subject. Permits. I always tell people, hey, make sure that the company that you're doing business with is, if licensing is required, say for driveways, it's not in some cases it is, different states, but with roofs. Now, the one thing I've learned about roofing is that just because a company is not licensed in your area yet doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't use them, because for instance, let's say there's a hailstorm in, Parker, Colorado, and you're not licensed there. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not a good guy. It just means that why would you pay for a license that you're not really using until you actually had to? Then you can go get licensed, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, you can't pull a permit, without a license and having the proper insurance too.
Yeah.
Some municipalities, it's really, you just pay a fee, and it's not too terribly difficult to get a license. Others, you have to have your license. I should say pull a permit. Others, you have to have a license in order to pull that permit. But yeah, that's important. And I would recommend for all homeowners to make sure that there is a permit pulled for their project.
Yeah.
So that there's a second set of eyes that are on it, not only from you and from the company, but now from the city that goes out there and inspects it and makes sure that it passes.
Yeah.
And that's important not only for the homeowner, it's important for the company too, because the company can say, well, I mean, we pulled the permit, it was inspected. You know, it's not like we did a bad job. I don't know what's going on, you know, because sometimes, you know, and the roof shouldn't leak, but some roofs are built a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know that, and you have to make sure you take all the precautions so that it's properly enclosed. But, you know, I mean, unfortunately, we have had a roof we've had to go back and fix a leak.
Sure,
you know,
it
it's
happens.
Not, it does,
Yeah.
you know, and water's a tricky thing. And every precaution that you take, you know, and again, it doesn't happen often. You can't be in business for a long time if it happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, you want to make sure you're doing it right the first time, but it's not, you know, it has happened.
Sure.
And even if it's been inspected, it still has happened. So, but it's just one more person that has eyes on it.
What do you say to the people that say, "Oh, I don't like to do inspections. The government just wants their money"? And I mean, my take on it is that it's really not that big a deal, really, right?
They're not that expensive typically. You know, I would just say to do it. I mean, well, first of all, you know, I'm putting myself at risk if I don't pull a permit.
Right.
You know, if the city finds out, you know, I'm going to have to take and again, I've never not, so I don't know exactly. I think you have to take off a certain amount of the roof so that they can inspect it and then put it back. And so it's going to cost you a lot more than just paying for the permit. You know, because some permits are only a few $100s, or most permits are only a few $100s.
Right.
You know, it depends on the size of the roof, but it's not, you know, and it's usually based on the value of the job, of the cost of the job. It's
The reason why I say that is because
I'm not willing to put my license at risk.
Sure.
So,
And the reason why I even bring it up is because, you know, as you know, you get a guy that finishes basements, and there are guys out there that will go, hey, you know, if you skip the whole permit process, I can give you a little better deal. And, you know, it's just not worth it skipping that, you know?
Yeah. We would never do that. We never have. I don't know many roofers that
I can't imagine a
do,
roof
because you're
being a company.
outside.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and but a lot of guys will do a job. You know, they'll do a job on a Saturday or Sunday to get around having to pull a permit.
Mm-hmm.
But as a homeowner, I would make sure the permit gets pulled. You know, check and see. It's supposed to hang on your door. Then the inspector will come and sign off on it. You know, a lot of times in certain areas, like Golden is a good example, they do a mid-roof inspection.
Mm-hmm.
Greenwood Village is another, where, you know, once you finish, you're done with the dry end, then they come out and inspect everything, and then you can shingle,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll come out and inspect after that.
And I want to say this. When it comes to that, I think that, again, these are instances where there are some roofing companies that are going to tell you, oh, yeah, we got that permit. I got it in my truck. I just haven't put it up yet.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would be like, yeah, well, you can't start on my roof until I see the permit. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, see the permit or call into the city.
Sure.
You can check it. Yeah, there's all that information is. You can probably even check online.
Yeah.
And see.
Well, even money down. You know, like with driveways, I have people tell me, oh, the contractor wanted 50% down, and I always tell people, don't look. A good company that is a good solid business isn't going to ask you for money up front. Yeah, I've had a couple of asphalt guys say, well, I'm taking a risk on them. They should take a risk on me. But more times than not, mm-hmm. those companies end up running with that money. And so what I tell people is, hey, look, if somebody's requiring money down, I just tell them, look, I'll just tell them that when you arrive and I see you unloading the stuff, I will have a 50% check for you, but I'm not giving it to you up front.
Yeah. We don't ask for money up front. On big jobs, commercial jobs, you know, that's negotiated with the commercial client. Only on big residential jobs. But I would never ask for money up front. I would always, you know, it would be a progress payment for us.
Sure.
Most roofs are like a day or two. You know.
Yeah.
But again, on some big homes, you know, we were talking about the one that's in Parker. I mean, that's going to be, you know, at least a week. You know, and that's not even that long. I mean,
really?
So for us, but this is a brand new home. You know, it's not it's not a re-roof. So it's not an insurance claim. So how we typically handle on an insurance claim is that when we are done, we ask the consumer for the first check they got from insurance.
Gotcha.
So that's the ACV check that they get, the actual cash value. And then we will wait with the homeowner until they get the replacement cost value check.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, too, we collect the deductible.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
and we're in touch too. I mean, we have direct contact with the insurance company, so we know when things get sent. You know, we've never had a homeowner try and stiff us, but I've heard horror stories.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I've heard them too. Because there's certainly not every customer is right, right?
Well, unfortunately, there's some that try and get away with things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of bouncing around here, but then let's talk about insurance. I mean, insurance is one of those things that's pretty important, right? I mean, what are the risks of somebody hiring a company without, say, general liability insurance? Somebody gets hurt on their property. I mean, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, and that's mostly falls for workers' comp. When someone gets hurt on a property.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mixing them up.
Yeah,
but I guess damage. Let's say the truck's backing up and they back into the house and they damage the whole eave, gutter, everything.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the importance of if you have a permit, can't pull a permit without the proper insurance.
Gotcha.
So it falls into place there. So just another reason why a permit should be pulled. Yep. Another reason why to make sure that the contractor you hire, in fact, has insurance. I mean, there's bad things. You know, again, we've been super lucky, so we haven't had issues, but I can see them happening. You know, we've had some. I shouldn't say nothing. You know, we did a roof where we had to back up the dumpster. It was a cedar shake roof that we were taking off and putting on tile, and the guys driving the dumpster, ran over the lawn and then damaged the grass and part of the driveway because it chipped a little bit because he went off and came back on. It was a heavy dumpster. We got to eat that cost. I'm not, it wasn't enough to turn into insurance. So, I got to get a landscaper out there. I got to get a concrete guy out there, and I got to take care of it. And that's, that stinks, but that's, part of doing business.
Well, see,
and that wasn't even one of our guys. That was the dumpster guy.
Well, see, and that's what I was just going to say is again, you're showing me why I love having you on Trust Patrick, because there are guys out there, it becomes a hot potato. Oh, well, it wasn't our fault. You got to call the trash company. And then the trash company's like, well, I worked for the roofing company. And it just becomes a hot potato and nobody wants to take care of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that on a homeowner ever. We were hired to do a job, and when the job is done, I want to make sure that they're happy. We'll do a walkthrough. We'll take a picture of them in front of the home, have them sign off that everything's great. But again, maybe in a week or two, they find something. I'm not going to be, well, you signed it that it was great. You said it was good. I'm not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
So but again, I don't know of any good company that would do that.
Right. Good companies do good things.
But honestly, then bad companies, they're not even going to take the time to have you sign anything anyway. They just want to get done, get in, get out, and get going.
Yep.
And get out of the state. So you can't ever find them again.
Yeah.
But just again, to reiterate, do your due diligence as a homeowner. That will save you headaches.
Yeah, for sure. And I preach that constantly. I say it all the time on the show. Go to the website. I say it in every video. I talk about it. I mean, it's just super important. And it's just funny because I get people that send in complaints. And one of the first questions I ask them is, do you have a copy of your contract? Well, no, we did. We just did it by verbal. Well, what do you want me to do?
Right. Yeah.
you gotta do the things that are important, and you can't let these guys, bamboozle you or push you around or intimidate you or rush you or pressure you. You just have to be able to say, no, I'm not doing it that way. And I've had people tell me, well, I chose the guy because he was the only asphalt company around that could do it in the next 2 weeks, and I needed to get it done. Well, you were in a hurry. That's
right.
That's what happens when you rush things. You just got to take your time and be willing to do it right, so you don't have to deal with the headaches afterwards. A job can be done quickly, painlessly, and a good job if you just do your due diligence, and you never have to worry about it again.
Yep. No, that's true.
So.
That's true.
So
yeah, it's I guess another thing you should ask for, and compare what kind of warranty is the company going to give you.
Gotcha.
The shingle comes with its own warranty, and then there's a workmanship warranty.
Gotcha.
So just understand what your warranties are. Get copies of the warranties.
Yeah.
That's another main thing. Some companies will just do. I think it's mandatory in Colorado to offer a 1-year workmanship warranty. Some companies will do 2, 3, 4, 5 lifetime. Some companies do lifetime warranties.
Sure.
It's
that reminds me of that Tommy Boy movie where, like the warranty's only as good as the company, how long they've been in business, right? So if a company that's been in business 3 months and they're telling you that they've got a lifetime warranty, it sounds good, right? It reminds me of that Tommy Boy movie. You remember that part?
I do.
Where he says something about the warranty on the brake pads.
Yeah.
I won't repeat it, but it's the truth, Now, again, it's not an all-the-time thing that if a company's newer and they offer a lifetime warranty, that's not really something to rely on. But it's, I find it interesting that there are asphalt companies out there that they've been in business 6 months, but they're telling people, oh, we give a 3-year warranty. And the homeowner's like, well, how come you guys only give a 1-year warranty? This other company's going to give me a 3-year warranty. And I'm like, well,
yeah, well, but again, that's something that you have to weigh out as a homeowner. How important is that to you? Again, just because the company's only been in business for 3 months doesn't mean they're a bad company and doesn't mean they're going to go away. Well, it's a higher probability, though,
right?
So that you just got to weigh that. But they could end up being the best company in the world. They could be out of business in a month later. You don't know. Again, I my heart goes out to new companies. So it's difficult for them. Again, I dealt with new companies, for most of my career, on TV and radio, and trying to help them, become, a company of longevity. And it's been great to see. I mean, I've started companies as a silent investor, with a plumbing company, with an electrical company. There's a few others as well that are still in business and are still thriving. And it's fun to be a part of that and to have that story. But now their story, right, is because they've been in business for, 10 years or 20 years or whatever the number is, that, only work for a company that have longevity, right? But they were singing a different tune when they first started.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, it's just, again, get to a level of comfort. If you check references, that's always a good thing too. You know, personally check, not just Google references. Yeah. Check and call and ask. References. Now, again, the tough part with that is that, most companies, me included, and again, I don't, I'm sure that we've had some people that have been upset with us, but, I make sure that the companies that I'm giving out, the homeowners that I'm giving out for references are ones that are going to give me a good recommendation.
Right. Here's 5 that are bad and 5 that are good.
Yeah. But anyway, again, I love the business. I love the fact that we can get in and we can get out. I love the fact that we're going to make sure that when the job is done, that it's cleaned up. Because that's the main thing that a homeowner, does it look nice and is it clean? That's probably the only 2 things that most homeowners care about. Some are a little more savvy in roofing and what they want. But most are, which shingle do you recommend? Okay, I'll go with that. And as long as the house is clean, I'm going to love you forever.
Yeah.
Another main thing that I would tell homeowners is ask the company, like, how are you going to put the ladder up? Because if you just put the ladder onto a gutter, it can crush that gutter. And now you got a bent gutter. Mm-hmm. So, make sure they're using protection, with the ladders to make sure they're not going to damage the gutters.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
Where are you going to use the bathroom? I don't want you in my house. I don't want you in my house,
especially during
using the bathroom
time.
And I don't want you on top of the roof peeing into a Gatorade bottle. I don't want you doing that, because I don't want my neighbors being upset with me. So that's another, good question. Just making sure that there's an understanding that, if you have to use the restroom, where are you going to go? You're going to leave, right? You're going to go to an outhouse or to a gas station. You're going to wait for, if you take a lunch or if it's waiting on a mid-roof inspection or whatever it might be. what's the plan here?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I never even really thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
it's kind of hard to hide it on top of a roof.
Yeah, music is another one. Do you care if there's music that's playing? A lot of guys will just crank the music.
Sure.
Neighbors probably aren't too appreciative of that. And really it's been difficult for the roofs that we've done, especially during COVID. People are home a lot of times. Especially either if you work from home, you're going to be home anyway. But people that weren't typically working from home and then were, they have to go through that process. It's loud, And, another thing too, we tell people, take the pictures off the wall. There's going to be a lot of banging. We don't want to break any of your pictures. Anything that's furniture that move it away from the wall. Just take some inside precautions.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Cool. Man, I think this has been like a lot of information. Like, I think we should like break this up and put it into little bits and pieces for people to digest, because you just got a lot of awesome information.
Yeah, I'm not sure people just sit down. I'm telling you, it's riveting stuff. So you just sit down and
I'm sure everybody has watched this from start to finish. No bathroom breaks.
Yeah. But it is important. It really is to know. Just again, the main piece of advice, let's go back to the beginning, then we can cut out of here, is understand what your coverage is. That's the first thing you can do. Do it before a storm comes. Mm-hmm. Understand so that you are armed with that knowledge, and then everything else follow what we talked about, and you're going to be a very happy camper.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, I appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks a million for coming. I'm sure we'll do some more shows. And again, if you're looking for a great roofing company in Denver, make sure you go to trustpatrick.com. Up on the right-hand side, you're going to see a button that says Find a Pro. Look for a roofer, and you're going to get connected with 303 Roofer. So thanks for watching today. We really appreciate you watching the show. We hope you join us for our next show. We'll be live again next week, and it's going to be fun. So thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.